Hey everyone, it is Tanya. Welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you are new here. Today I am back with another speed build and another part of my 50 state series. In this series, I am slowly going through and creating homes loosely inspired by all 50 states based on a variety of fun facts I find online and some interesting architecture that I find on Zillow. And if you'd like to see more of the behind the scenes process of some of that research and some of the Zillow listings, I have been posting members only videos that show me going through some of that. Anyway, with all of that out of the way, today we are tackling the state of Rhode Island. And I should have a graphic that has popped up on screen showing you all of the completed states, which are in green, and all of the ones that still need to be done, which are in white. Anyway, talking a little bit more about Rhode Island, I did build in the world of Brindleton Bay, which is the world that comes with the Cats and Dogs expansion pack, as it is based off of New England, and Rhode Island is one of the 6 New England states. It is the smallest US state, and the state was named by Dutch explorer Adrian Block. He named it Rhode Island, meaning red island, in reference to the red clay that lined the shore, and then the name was later anglicized when the region came under British rule. Rhode Island is the smallest US state by area and the 7th least populous, with slightly more than 1.1 million residents as of the year of 2024. With that said, it covers an area of 1,214 square miles, and its distances north to south are 48 miles and east to west is 37 miles. So it's a pretty small state. But what's impressive about it is known as the ocean state because even though it's very small, it has over 400 miles of coastline. And because of that, it is known as the sailing capital of the world. And there are 21 lighthouses in the state of Rhode Island, which is pretty impressive with how small it is, but considering the coastline, it makes a lot of sense. And if you want to read up on any more of the facts that I'm talking about or just find out some more information, I will have links down below to where I found everything if you'd like to read a little bit more about the state. Anyway, as I have rambled a little bit about some fun facts, I figured right now we could talk about what's going on with the build. So this home is not only inspired by various Zillow listings in a few different towns, notably just outside of Newport. I also looked in Providence and a couple of the surrounding towns and cities in those areas. But I also was really inspired by a historical architecture type in the area called the lightning splitter house, which was suggested by a comment. And it is characterized by this really tall roof pitch. Basically, this sharply angled gable was believed in local Rhode Island folklore to sort of split or deflect bolts of lightning. And I just thought they were so cool. So I kind of combined the idea of that with a lot of the other references I was finding. So there is a very steep pitched roof here, and I just think it ends up being a really unique house. I feel like it fits the style of the area, but also has a little bit more of that historical relevance. And I think it came out really cool in the end, and I hope you'll enjoy it as well. If you do and you'd like to download it for yourself, it should be available right now on the Sims 4 gallery. You can find it under my EA ID, which is Gryphi, Gryphi. You could also find it under the hashtag Gryphi, and that information will be in the description down below as well. So it's about at this point that I'm gonna extend the size of the house. I ended up adding a driveway over here, and so I'm gonna actually drag out the side and make it quite a bit bigger, which worked out nicely because I wanted to make sure there was plenty of space on the interior of this home to have quite a few bedrooms, which I was able to achieve. I believe there are 3 bedrooms in this house, which is quite nice. There's also a garage and plenty of space downstairs for your Sims to have plenty of family time. But right now I'm just extending the roof pieces over where I'm going to have the garage, and then sort of making the garage by using one of the archways from the game and putting it in the basement and then raising it up and scaling it with tool so that it looks like the framing of a garage door. I thought that looked cool, and then I did at first put some of these slats in here from Dine Out, I think they are. But I got rid of those in the end and actually used a wallpaper, so you'll see that change a little bit later on. Oh, and I also added some of these base game windows to really achieve that garage door look of the windows at the top. I just thought it was really cool. I was very proud of how the garage door came out in the end. But while all of that is playing out on screen, let's talk a little bit more of the state of Rhode Island. As the name suggests, it does have a few islands, with the largest being Aquidneck Island, which is covered by the towns of Portsmouth, Newport, and Middletown. And there's also Block Island, which is offshore of Rhode Island, whereas the other ones are like islands within the state. Rhode Island is bordered to the north and east by Massachusetts and to the west by Connecticut, and the capital of Rhode Island is Providence. And with that, Rhode Island's Capitol building actually has the fourth largest self-supported marble dome in the world, which I thought was really cool. And then some history about the state. Rhode Island was the last of the original 13 colonies to ratify the Constitution in 1790, and the state was officially named the State of Rhode Island and Providence Plantations since the colonial era, but came to be commonly known as Rhode Island. However, on November 3rd, 2020, the state voters approved an amendment to the state constitution, formally dropping the and Providence Plantations from its full name. So now it's called the State of Rhode Island, officially. Back to the build now, though. I have started quite a bit of the landscaping in the front of the house, and I love how many bushes and the purple flowers that I have. I have lots of hydrangeas and the little rock pathway to the front door. I also ended up using some pretty large windows on the side here for this little bump out that I created that I thought was really cute. And actually the back of the house ends up changing quite a bit as I wanted to expand the interior space on the top floor. So the back is not as cute as the front, but I thought it was very realistic to what you see in real life and to a lot of the houses I was seeing in Rhode Island. So you'll see me do that here momentarily, but first I am creating this somewhat covered back porch using a low-lying fence to create sort of a lattice, which I thought looked so cute, but I am going to be making it a little bit smaller. I thought it was too big and I wanted to have a decent amount of backyard to play with, to have some activities in this space for the family. And I was imagining that this was a household that had a kid and a teenager, so that is how I ended up decorating the bedrooms and the backyard. Also, I forgot to say this in the beginning, but if you are watching this, I hope you have a drink and a snack. This is a longer one. Just the speed build portion is half an hour, so that plus screenshots, it's a longer build, and I tried to cut out some footage, but there was just so much I wanted to keep in, and I was so proud of this build, so it's a little bit of a longer one, but I hope you do enjoy it. But please grab a snack if you have not already. If it's not already apparent, I spent a very long time on the exterior of this build, messing around with the roof, working on the landscaping, decorating in general. I think I do the backyard before the rest of the interior. I might be wrong on that, but I spend ages on the outside of this build. So we don't get to the interior until I think around 10 or 11 minutes. So you can see me just trying to add some additional little bump outs on the top floor and figuring out how to line up the roof to make it look nice so that I had more space upstairs. And then I am using this little item, which is technically a package from Debug, to sort of line out these more organic flower beds that I have in the front of the house. I think it ends up looking a lot nicer than putting a very structured fence. So I did the tedious task of placing a ton of these down all around the flower bed. There ends up being actually a couple of these throughout the build, and I think it was worth it. It's just a very long process. So just continuing that now, and then I should be getting some more terrain paint in the front of the build as well under the stone walkway, just to make it feel more realistic. Adding terrain paint really goes a long way in a build to make everything feel more detailed and real. So grabbing that and also figuring out some more trees, and I ended up actually swapping to these flower boxes from Debug that have purple flowers. Since I had the purple hydrangeas out front, I thought it would look nice to do this. And then I scaled down some of these little fake balconies that came with base game to sort of cover up the actual box of the flower box, because it was brown and I had black shutters in a blue house, and the brown just felt like it clashed a little bit, and I actually ended up changing them to blue in the end, which I thought was really fun. And then I'm going through and adding some more landscaping over on this side of the staircase, and I am going to be lining that out with the same item that I lined the other flower bed out with. I tried to cut out some of the process so it wasn't too long, but you can see the gist of what I did here. And then I'm just going to be filling that in with some additional plants and some terrain paint to make it feel complete. And then I added this big chunk of upstairs and had to configure the roof to accommodate for it, but I think it looks really good in the end. I'm really glad that I did this. It allowed for so much more space in the upstairs area to make the bedrooms bigger and have plenty of them. So I think it was a good decision. It just took me a little while to get to it. And another thing I did in the end, which I don't think I've done yet, maybe I have, it's kind of hard to tell. I think I have already done it, was I changed the roof trim from what I had in the beginning to this chunkier one. Yeah, this one I believe came with Adventure Awaits or maybe a different pack. I want to say it's Adventure Awaits though. And I just feel like it added a lot of character to the build. So I was happy that I changed to that one in the end. And that's also where the texture that I have on the chimney is from. It's the new stone from that. And then you can see me going through and trying to figure out a boat and putting it on a trailer so it can be towed behind a car. I thought it was important since sailing was such a big thing here and you're right on the water that this family would have a boat. So I went through debug and picked out one that made the most sense. I could have done like a functional one that came with island living, but it didn't fit the style really. So I ended up going with this debug one instead. Anyway, it looks like I don't get to the backyard until after we do the floor plan. So while all of that is going on, let's talk a little bit more about the state. The state motto of Rhode Island is hope, and is the shortest of all the US states, along with being one of the smallest states. It is also home to the first open golf tournament in the US, and home of the first ever jail sentence for speeding. The state bird is the Rhode Island red chicken, and the state drink is coffee milk. If you're not familiar with coffee milk, it is made in the same way as chocolate milk, except the syrup is a coffee syrup, and it is very, very popular in Rhode Island and parts of southeastern Massachusetts as well. Rhode Island is also the only state with no county government, and it is home to the oldest operating restaurant in the US, the White Horse Tavern. Also, the headquarters of Hasbro Toys is in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. I thought that was kind of fun. It's always interesting to see where the headquarters of like big companies are. But moving on, the Cogswell Tower in Central Falls was the site of an Indian observation point that was in use during King Philip's War in 1676, and the tower was built in 1904 as part of the last will and testament of Caroline Cogswell. So the first thing I did when working on this floor plan was figure out where the staircase was going to go, and I actually rearranged it a few different times afterwards, but I get the gist of the floor plan first. So when you first walk into the house, you're in a sort of like sunroom meets dining room entryway space. It's like one big room. And then through an archway leads you into the kitchen. And then this front room here is going to be the living room. There's a garage over on the other side, as well as a bathroom and a laundry room. And then upstairs is where all of the bedrooms are going to be, plus 2 additional bathrooms. One of them is just the hall bath for the kids to use, and then the other one is going to be an ensuite bathroom for the primary. And here you can see me just fiddling with the stairs some more. I thought at this point I was going to have them in this shape with a little closet in the garage, but I end up completely changing the orientation of the steps a few different times. It works out okay in the end. It's just kind of frustrating because at some point they just sort of disappear and then I couldn't place them back down, and then I rearranged the layout so that when you walk upstairs, you're not immediately just facing a wall. And it just works better in the end. So you'll see me going ahead and fixing that later on. But first, we are working on the backyard now. I just fenced in our small backyard. I'm figuring out some of the windows, and I end up using some of the modular playground items back here. I think these are so cool. Of course, you can make a full playground with them, but you could also make a small backyard situation. So that's what I did. I have a slide and a swing set, and I go ahead and grab the matching one and kind of merge them together so it looks like it's all one piece. I feel like these are fairly common to see. Not that everyone has one, but I've seen lots of yards that have these in my area at least. I never had this exact thing. I had a single swing set as a child, and I don't remember what happened to it because we had it when I was really little and then it was gone. I don't know what happened. Same thing with a trampoline at one point we had, and then it was gone. So I'm not really sure what happened. I'm assuming things broke, probably. But either way, this backyard does have the slide and the swing set. I'm so happy to have slides in the game finally. They have been missing for 11 years now, and they are finally here thanks to Adventure Awaits. And I also made sure to place down some planter boxes out here so you can do some gardening. And then I do add a barbecue, but I don't remember if I add a table and chairs out here or not. I feel like I probably did, but I know that I have some sofas that are up on the back porch as a nice like casual lounging spot. We have some outdoor sofas that I think came with the backyard stuff pack. So I ended up placing 2 of those up here along with our grill. And I want to say I might have placed some additional planter boxes, although those might be on the front porch. So here are those little sofas over here, and I paired them with this beautiful rug from the Comfy Gamer Kit. I thought it was perfect as an outdoor rug. And I did place down the planter boxes. I also placed down a wind chime. I want to say that also came with backyard stuff, and it makes some pretty music when there is wind outside, so that's kind of fun. I thought it made a lot of sense for a coastal state. Anyway, as I finish up decorating the backyard, we're going to get back to some fun facts about Rhode Island. First of which is Rhode Island never ratified the 18th Amendment, which is prohibition. However, to this day, you still can't buy alcohol in their supermarkets. Also, polo was played for the first time in the United States in 1876 near Newport, Rhode Island. And the nation's oldest carousel is called the Flying Horse Carousel, and it is located in the resort town of Watch Hill. And another first we have here in Rhode Island is the first circus in the United States was in Newport in 1774. And then I think the last first I have written down was Ann and Hope was the first discount department store in the United States, which was opened in Rhode Island. And then finally, the last first that I wrote down was Roger Williams, the founder of Rhode Island, established the first practical working model of democracy after he was banished from Plymouth, Massachusetts because of his extreme views concerning freedom of speech and religion. I do have a few other facts that I will be sharing that are a little bit on the fun side, but we're going to get back to the build first. And definitely let me know if you have any fun facts or information specifically about Rhode Island you'd like to share. I love reading that in the comments. And same thing goes if there are specific things you'd like me to know about a state that we could be working on next. What would you like to see? Anyway, at this point, we have moved inside and I am starting on the kitchen, and this kitchen changes colors and countertops so many times. I really wanted to use this orange wood floor and blue countertops, and that's not what ended up happening in the end. I tried a few different countertops, and in the end, I ended up going with the base game ones that came with an update earlier in the year. And I end up actually putting them in a dark wood swatch, and that makes it so I changed the swatch of the floor in the entire house. But I think that was the correct choice in the end. I really like it. It makes it look a little bit older in style with the dark wood floors, and I was really inspired by these curtains and this rug. I think they are so pretty, and they helped to figure out some of the color scheme of the entire house. Although I did change them out in the kitchen for these base game curtains instead. I just really love the cats and dogs curtains, and you will be seeing them. Also, for the tile in the kitchen, I ended up using this flooring from the Castle Estate kit. So it's supposed to be castle flooring, but I thought it looked nice as just some tiles in the kitchen. And then this is that swatch I had mentioned of the countertops. I think they just look so much nicer like this. It's so warm and comforting and inviting, and that was something I was seeing a lot in the Zillow listings I was looking at. I did sometimes see more of an orangey wood floor, which is why I was trying to use that to begin with, but I think this works way better, and now I am just decorating the countertops. I made sure to add a Tiffany lamp in here as they're very popular in New England, and I just think the idea of a little lamp on the counter is really cute. Also, I'm from New England, and we had a Tiffany lamp chandelier over our dining table, so I like to add them in my New England builds because it just feels very nostalgic for me. Anyway, I also made sure to add the new pots and pans that came with adventure weights above the stove here. I really love them, and I feel like they're going to be in every build forever. I've said that a lot already, but it's I'm realizing it's honestly true. I've been putting them everywhere. They are just so good. It's a nice piece of clutter. And then over on this side is where I have the sink, and we also have a dishwasher. I don't always include these in builds, but they are very realistic and helpful. I love having a dishwasher. It's really frustrating when it's not working, so I decided to make sure that these Sims have one. They also have a washing machine, which is definitely annoying in gameplay because it's nice to just pretend your Sims don't have chores they need to do. Or maybe you're somebody that plays with Bust the Dust and you're always vacuuming your house. Let me know. But here is where I'm actually starting to mess around with the steps again because they didn't want to fit where they were before. And I'm not really sure why that was. But it made it so I actually rearranged them and they're in a much better layout than I had originally. So I was really happy about that since it makes it so much easier for you to access all of the rooms and you're not facing just the one wall where the bedroom is. Now you're facing the front wall of the house and there is a door in the corner, and it just works a lot better. I was pretty pleased with it. So here is the little railing that I put up to there, and then I am extending the tile here in the kitchen and into the entryway dining space. I thought a tiled entry looked so nice, and it was just a little bit different than things I've done before, and definitely something I saw in some of my references. And another thing I saw was so much carpeting. And as somebody that lives in New England, that is so realistic. I only kept carpeting, I think, in the bedrooms, assuming I remembered to keep it carpeting. I might have kept it as wood, honestly, but there are a lot of carpeted bedrooms in this part of the country. So even if I didn't include them in this build, it's good to know there is just so much carpet here, like a ridiculous amount of carpet. I wish it wasn't true. I really want hardwood floors, but I feel like that's something that is a dream that will never come to fruition. Anyway, trying to segue off of that, we are working on our entryway, dining room, sunroom space. There's a lot of windows here, so I have a big round dining table. I also made sure to place down a piano in this room. There's a bunch of plants in the corner. I just think it is so cozy. One thing I didn't add in here that I really wish you could just place the item on a table and not have a special item for it is I really wish you could play board games or card games or something in here. But I thought it was important for this to be a dining table, not just a cards table. So what I did is just put a box of like puzzles and stuff over on the table, and I made sure it was one that had a beach scene on it because Rhode Island is very much famous for their beaches, so I did include that. And then over by the entryway, I wanted to make sure there was plenty of place to hang up coats and stuff, as well as dog leashes, since I am building in the world of Brindleton Bay, which of course came with cats and dogs. I did imagine that this household had some pets, so there are some leashes over here, and I will be also adding some dog and cat bowls and a bunch of the entryway items that came with the Grange mudroom kit. I think they are so perfect to make this little entry with the coats hanging up, the little boots on the floor. They are just adorable. And then here are the automatic feeders for your cats and your dogs. And that should be it for the entryway. And we're heading on into the living room now, where I changed my mind about which way everything is going to be oriented quite a few times. But I do end up picking out this fireplace, which is gorgeous. It is from the new Adventure Awaits expansion pack. And then the couches are just base game. I think they're really pretty. And I don't remember off the top of my head what pack the rug in this room is from. But I really loved the swatch of it, so I made sure to bring that in here. I tried it in the kitchen at first, but I didn't feel like it really fit the colors I was going for in there. But it's so cozy in the living room. And here are those curtains again from Cats and Dogs. They're just perfect for this space. As was this little corner cabinet piece from Cats and Dogs and some paintings. I kind of imagined one of the Sims here, one of the parents, was an artist. And so I end up setting up the garage as their art studio, but I put a couple of their paintings that are yet to be hung up in the house here in the living room. There's also this cozy armchair, a place to watch TV. I actually used a dresser as the TV stand in here. I just thought it was perfect. And I did mix wood tones. I just think it's more realistic when you do that. I do try to match them a lot of the time just because it's kind of satisfying, but in real life, your wood tones are probably not going to match entirely perfectly unless you bought the entire set of furniture at the same time, which is not always realistic. Oh, and I also added a globe bar in here. I just think that's a fun item and it filled up the corner, so I did that. And then for our hallway, I am just picking out a runner rug. This one is from the Vampires game pack, and you can just kind of connect the pieces together to make it as long as you want, which is very, very useful. And there's just like a little entryway or back hallway mudroom to the backyard over there, which has a couple of the same items that the front hallway has. And I also put down a little bench for you to sit on. And then we are moving on into the downstairs bathroom, which is actually pretty spacious. I have enough space to put 3 cabinets in here, and there's also a standing shower and a toilet. I have at least one of the bathrooms upstairs has a tub. Although, actually, I think what I did is I swapped the tub down here. Yeah, I put the tub down here so that way if you have a dog, there is a place for you to bathe them. It made more sense to me that it would be on the bottom floor, so when the dog like rolls in mud or something, they're not tracking that through the entire house. They can come in through the back door and then directly into this bathroom to go ahead and get a bath. Or if you have toddlers, you can bathe them down here as well. And then upstairs, I think I have a shower tub combo in one of them, but I might be wrong. It might just be standing showers in both of the bathrooms. But this is the laundry room right off of the garage. It's pretty small. I kept it fairly simple. I have a washer and dryer. I have 2 counters. I think one of them ends up with a sink on it. And I put a couple of pieces of decor in here, like a thing of laundry detergent and a bucket of cleaning supplies. And I believe a washboard. And that should be it for that room. I think it's pretty cute, though. It has everything you would need. And then we are moving on into the garage, where I mostly set this up as an art studio, but I do have a couple of pieces from the restoration workshop kit. but the rest of it is from the artist studio kit. So I have like an apron and paints and storage. There's also going to be an easel in here and some places to put down some items for painting a still life. I also have all sorts of sketches up all over the walls and paint on the floor, some newspapers to try and protect the floor a little bit, and some more finished pieces of art that have yet to be hung up. I think it ends up being so cute in the end, and I love creating spaces for artists in the game. Since I went to art school myself, it's always really fun to create those spaces. Anyway, moving upstairs now into I think this one is the ensuite bathroom. I do have a shower tub combo up here, it looks like, and a small toilet, and I think I also was able to include a shower tub combo in the other bathroom as well. So very happy about that. And they're pretty much the same. I just add slightly different decorations in them. I believe we get different bath mats, and I might add some slightly more kid-friendly items like the towels and stuff in this one. It's a little bit messier, whereas the ensuite I tried to make a little bit cleaner and more adult for the parents to have like their nice bathroom. But they have all of the same fixtures and mirror and all of that. They just have like different artwork and different clutter. So just finishing that up here, it's pretty simple. I do get a extra storage cabinet above the toilet. And I've been saying this for a while, but I really want more over the toilet storage. We have a couple of different options you can hang on the wall, but the ones that I've always experienced in real life are like a stand that stands over the toilet. So there's like feet on it, and you have some like really nice designs for that. That would be kind of cool to see in the game. I guess maybe if we got another creator kit, I could see that happening. I'm not sure if it's something EA is looking to add or not, but maybe a creator would. Anyway, this is the upstairs hallway where I decided to have another bookcase and plants, and I also kind of set it up as a office space. So you're going to have a computer. I didn't have a dedicated office here because I decided I wanted to have more bedrooms and a garage. So that kind of took up the space that would be normally for an office. But I think the little office nook up here looks really cute. And I just finished up with some artwork. And then I also wanted to make sure I added the parenting board downstairs, as well as a thermostat, a burglar alarm, and a fire alarm. So I'm just moving stuff around to try and get it all to fit where I want it to before we start working on the primary bedroom, which is very blue. I ended up using this bed from Cats and Dogs to pair with the curtains, and the bedside tables are there from that pack as well. And then the rug is just base game. And of course, Cats and Dogs for our beautiful lamps. I love them so much. And I got some books and plants and just like basic bedside table decor. There's a little clock and I believe, an open journal as well. And then I think I grabbed the same mirror that I have in the hallway. That one is from Growing Together, I'm fairly certain. I thought it had just such a beautiful shape to it, so I made sure to include that in this space. And then the same dresser that I have downstairs as our TV stand ends up being in here. And I also have a little bench tucked in the corner there from the Grange mudroom kit, and then just cluttering up the dresser, and that should be pretty much it for the primary bedroom, other than a little bit of extra artwork, and then we're moving into our kids' room. I really wanted to use purple and orange in here. I was very excited about the color scheme, so I'm playing around with that idea now and trying to find a bedside table that matches, which was very difficult. I ended up deciding to just go with a white one in the end instead of trying to match to the wood tone of the bed because there really wasn't anything with that color. And this kid does have an imaginary friend, which I thought was very, very fun. And I also got to use the new nightlight. That's a little bunny that came with the most recent in-game event. So that is placed down here. And then I am changing the wallpaper to this really pretty one from Parenthood and grabbing my favorite dollhouse in the game, which is from the Little Campers kit. It just looks like the kids grabbed some random items from around the house and put them all together to create a dollhouse. And I love the imagination behind that. So I do really enjoy that one. And then I was also thinking that the sim really loves the cats and dogs that live in this house. So I grabbed a statue of a cat and a dog. Although I don't remember if I added a kitty litter box to this house. I might have forgotten to do that. So maybe there's only dogs that live here. I'm not sure. You could also probably easily add that. I feel like in the garage would be a good spot. Or I guess maybe in one of the bathrooms. I'm not really sure. Where do you keep your kitty litter box if you have a cat? I have a cat and her litter box is unfortunately in my office. That's really the only place we had space for it. So I don't think that's the best spot in that where I would put it in the game, but I would love to know where you think is a good spot. And I've pretty much talked over this teenager's room, which I was imagining was a teen that's really into sports. Unfortunately, we don't have golf or polo in the game, but those were sports that we mentioned facts about in our fun facts. And so I was kind of imagining maybe this sim was into some sports that were popular in the state of Rhode Island. And I just realized I have a couple of facts left, so we're going to rapid fire. Rhode Island is known for making silverware and fine jewelry. Also, the Swamp Meadow covered bridge in Foster is the only remaining covered bridge in the state of Rhode Island. The house that inspired the movie The Conjuring is in Harrisville, Rhode Island. And there is a vampire buried in Rhode Island. You can visit their grave behind the Baptist Church in Exeter. It is also illegal to race a horse down a highway in Rhode Island. And the world's largest bug is on the roof of New England Pest Control in Providence. It's a big blue termite. It's 58 feet long and about 928 times the size of an actual termite. It's often called the big blue bug or Nibbles Woodaway. And with that exceptionally fun fact, that is the end of the video. I really hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, make sure you give this video a big thumbs up. You can also subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more and click that bell to be notified when I upload. And a massive thank you to my YouTube members for your continued support. If you'd like to become a member yourself, you can click the join button below the video or the link in the description. Please enjoy the screenshots and I will see you all in the next one. Bye everyone.